Welcome to Freed on Business. He grew up in South Florida, has been in business here since the early 90s, and has closed over $3 billion in deals. He's seen it all. He always has an opinion, and he's always ready to share it. Informed, entertaining, and connected, he has his finger on the pulse of South Florida's business community. He's Jim Freed, and this is Freed on Business.
Hey everybody, welcome to our show today. I'm really excited to have one of my favorite guests, KC Conway, the Chief Economist for Freed on Business. He's just the most marvelous person. Also, I want to, of course, always thank our sponsors for over a decade, Warren Henry Automotive. I want to thank Larry, Warren, Eric, Ismet, and of course, my personal service advisor, Maytel Stark. I love them all very much. They treat us like family. They'll treat you like family too. And now let's get on with the show. Where's KC, Mr. Regan Mendoza? Oh, high five, KC. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I just came down from this Chinese space balloon, so I'm back with you.
Oh, well, we'll give it a shot today and make sure that we get all of the information that you've collected while you've been floating up there on the economy. I want to thank you so much for wearing your blue today. I've got my little Gator Man right here, too. So we're going to have a great time. KC and I just saw each other at the University of Florida Center for Real Estate Studies Trends Conference. He gave a great speech. I really appreciated everything you said. And of course, here's my other Gator stuff right there. We love the Gators here. Even though we love the Gators, we've got my good friend Adam here. Adam, come here and show your face.
I'm going to have to throw up the U here.
Yeah, get out of here. Get off screen. Get off screen. Adam's one of the young men that I mentor. He's went to the University of Miami. We're agnostic here. We just love the young, smart people. And that's why we have KC on. So KC, considering now that you're a young, smart person, what's the theme?
What's the theme? Probably it was best. They had a great speaker at the University of Florida, Chris Leonard, and he introduced his book there. It was called The Lords of Easy Money, How the Federal Reserve Broke the American Economy. They have a meeting next week. They're going to break it some more.
Yeah, I hope you ship them a case of those books. Being in the real estate industry, they've actually already done what they wanted to do. The real estate industry has been broken over their knee. Cap rates are up. Interest rates are up. Deals don't work. Banks are pulling back. What's the story with the banks and what's their perspective here, KC?
So it's not the bankers' fault. Really, what the Fed has done with these rate increases, its new monetary policy, is they've said this. They said lending is economic activity. Economic activity is bad. It's inflationary. So quit lending. So the banks have had to basically quit lending. The other problem they're starting to see is the banks are seeing, hey, why should I keep my money in a bank that pays me a 2% on my CD when I can go get 5% on a 1 or 2 year treasury? So deposits are leaving and credit problems are starting. So they're going to have to add to their loan loss reserves. So I'm not very long on banks right now, but it's not their fault. It's all the Fed. Just like everybody else has had a problem, it's a Fed problem.
There's all these new digital finance options now where people shouldn't even keep their money in the checking account. They should put it in one of these funds that basically reprices every day so that they can at least get protected against inflation. I mean, for goodness sakes, if you buy a 3 or 4 or 6 month CD or a 1 year CD, those rates keep going up, which means the value of your CD keeps going down. CDs used to be a play, but now it's this new financial tool that's repricing every day.
Yeah, I say just go buy some real estate and avoid the FTX and Silvergate Bank investments.
You're tremendous. So yeah, but if people are buying real estate, we're seeing real estate values are dynamic in the engineering sense. They continue to change. People really can't predict what's going to happen. Super Class A office in Miami is smoking hot. Office in suburban markets has kind of gone sideways, but could also provide people with a good opportunity if it's acquired right and can be redeveloped correctly. Is it time for the opportunity funds, or are we still 6 to 12 months away?
I think they're all on pause because they need about 6 months here to really figure out what the Fed's going to do. Remember, in January, they said, all inflation's tamed. It's peaked. We're only going to do a 25 basis point increase. 2 days later, we got the 500,000 jobs report. Then we got a new CPI, PPI, and PCE. They're all running 0.5 to 0.75% hot a month. So every metric since the January or the February 1st Fed meeting have been hot. So now Powell testifies to Congress or Senate the past 2 days, and he says, yeah, we screwed up again. We're probably going to go back to 50 or 75 basis point hikes. So we went from the 75 basis points to 50 to 25. Now we're going to go back to 50, back to 75, to infinity and beyond. So I think the market is totally confused, and they just are saying, I'm going to sit on the sidelines. They're going to wait and see what happens. And we're not going to build up all of these bad debt funds in the banks. They're just going to put them in a grab bag, sell them, at a Chuck E. Cheese or whatever to private equity, those little game machines where you put the hook, and then you see what's in there. But the banks aren't going to rebuild the workout departments, and the private equity is waiting to see, is this too early or do I wait a little bit longer? And I think we're going to wait and see this summer.
I've spoken to some of the bankers that I know. They've already called me. They've asked me if I could stand by, because when they sell their loans or their real estate assets, they're not going to want to really, at least at this point, hold an auction. They're just going to have certainty of execution, get as much as they can, and lay them off to hopefully their best customers, which I'm aligning with the best customers here in South Florida. I've known them all for years. They're my friends. And, I think in Florida, we'll have a great opportunity on the commercial side. What'll be interesting is the multifamily, the build for rent. And I'm also getting calls about how fast can I help people close on the luxury spec houses, because the ones in my neighborhood have started to sit. It's kind of interesting to watch what's going on with Florida being driven by real estate in many, many parts. Historically, one of the interesting things that we saw at the conference was that they talked about the states that are relocating and the wealth that's relocating into the state of Florida. The state of Florida used to be a cheap place where people came to retire and die. Now, not only are we having the blue states from the Northeast, but we're also getting money from California. California is number 2 or number 3 in both headcount and assets assets. I don't know if the right term is being repatriated. Assets sent and being redeposited, transferred to Florida. What's up with that? Florida seems like it's still hot as a pistol.
It is. There was a great piece by Yahoo Finance about 6 days ago titled, Florida, no longer God's waiting room. Florida has more jobs than New York for the first time ever. It's all about jobs. It's all about economic development. It's all about having a good fiscal situation. And it's basically Texas and Florida. You look at the U-Haul moving report that comes out every January, Texas and Florida 1 and 2. You look at the number of jobs. If you have 7% plus job and population growth, you can outrun inflation. And that's what the market, whether it's capital, real estate assets, people moving, businesses moving, they want to go where it all works, and you can outrun inflation when you've got that kind of growth. So it's all, you don't see asset values going down in Florida. You see them, even office, where everybody else wants to throw office out the window, they want to buy it in Florida.
I heard Mayor Suarez speak yesterday at a conference, and he said that a lot of the jobs that are coming to Miami and to Florida in general are tech jobs. He said the tech jobs in Miami pay over $107,000 a year on average. And that's really, I think, going to put a lot of pressure on the housing stock here. People are moving here. They can do hybrid work, and still, one of the guys in my building flies to New York 2-3 days a week, 2-3 times a month, and spends the rest of the time beating me to the gym at 5:30 in the morning.
Yep. Well, and the other thing Florida has is what's called Boo Leisure. It's the business leisure hospitality, where because of remote work, we can extend business trip for a little bit of leisure for a day or two, because I can work remote. So when you look at the leisure markets and the leisure hotels that you have all over Florida, and beaches and theme parks and all that, someone can travel down there, they can do their work, they can extend the stay a little bit longer. And this is going to be the first time ever since World War II that we don't see hotels go into a recession with a national recession. And it's because we're the remote work issue. And so even Urban Land Institute in their 2023 Emerging Trends Report said, we're moving hotel into the number 3 most desired investment class behind industrial and multifamily. That's never happened. And who did they kick off? Office and retail.
Well, we still know that retail is repositioning itself, but it's really hot as a pistol in the personal services and restaurant sector. And I remember when hotel was the stepchild. I know now my friends that run hotel funds, we're helping capitalize them with our new blockchain technology. Maybe we'll talk about that a little later on. But the hotel guys, they've already picked the winners and the losers. And they're really doubling down on the winners. We had Nick Falcone on a couple of weeks ago. He's competing with Airbnb and Vrbo in the hotel vacation rental space. And I know when I went to the conference for the first time ever, I bought a couple of extra nights at the hotel just to relax, get away, work out in a different place, and just unwind. And when I was out there, I was still seeing the people from the conference a day or two before. It was really a fabulous situation because we were meeting and talking in a much more casual circumstances, and we were able to build relationships, which I haven't been able to do face to face for 3 years. And I think that's what's feeding into what you're talking about.
It is. And you know what else is out of this world in Florida? The space economy. So Florida, so my little company, we trademarked Spacenomics, and we're working on a paper, and we're going to rank the top 5 states and the top 20 MSAs in space. And Florida's crushing it. Florida will have probably 90 out of Cape Canaveral, 90 private space launches this year. That's more than all states combined, over the prior 3 to 4 years. So they're becoming the new private space economy, but we call it Spacenomics, or the space economy. It's less than 1% of GDP. It'll be over 10 to 15% within 5 years. And Florida and Texas will be the leading states, and California will fall way down the other states. But the space economy is incredible. You notice that they shot down the balloon, this Chinese space balloon, before it got down to Florida, because they knew if they figured out Florida that we were really in trouble. So they had to get it out over South Carolina before it got down there to Florida.
Well, it has to go slow to pick up all the great economic growth that's going on in Florida. And just for the record, Adam, you're in good company. Give me the fist bump, even though you're a freaking cane. One of the guys I mentored a number of years ago is Brandon Purdick. Brandon just invested and created a JV in Melbourne where they're going to do industrial. And I remember going to Melbourne when it was just the Harris Corp.
Yeah. Well, look at all of the logistics in the industrial that's going to have to come for all the vendors that are making and manufacturing and supporting all these space launches. I was recently out in Long Beach, California, and the private space industry that's doing all these design and coding for these private space launches took over all the former, Boeing space out there in Long Beach. It's millions of square feet they've repurposed. That's coming to your location. Look, they just announced, your Space Force announced last week that they're now able to do a 3D printed rocket ship. They can make it in a fraction of the time as the old space launches. And we're going to see, Jim, that instead of those big rocket boosters launching the rocket into space, we're going to see 2 Tesla batteries on either side that are going to quietly take it into outer space at 50 G's or whatever force. No flame, no carbon. It'll be green. You guys will be the green rocket ship industry too.
You're so tremendous. I remember driving past the Space Center when the big 747 was bringing the space shuttle back, piggyback. It's actually one of my most amazing memories. Just driving down that little strip, I felt like one of the guys in the movies that used to live there in Satellite Beach. In fact, one of my really good friends still lives in Satellite Beach. He's one of the fund managers that we're working with on our new real estate digitization program. He's a thought leader. We're taking his EB5 investors from India, and we're going to tokenize that investment for him. We'll talk about that later on in the show. The other thing that I really noticed that's space oriented, well, I remember watching the space liftoffs when I lived in Orlando, but what I really blew my mind was a couple of days ago, well, no, it's about a month ago, I was driving to an event on Key Biscayne, and while I was crossing, it was a Sunday afternoon, it was sort of like sunset, and I thought all the people were taking photographs of the sunset. They were all looking up and they were taking photographs, and I go, wow, it must be a really good sunset, but it's a little early for that. I turned and looked, and what was happening? The first stage of the rocket was decoupling, and you could see it, and it was just the most amazing thing. So not only are we going to have the space industry, we're going to have space-related tourism too.
Absolutely, the tourism and the industry, because we're going to be doing a lot more manufacturing in space, because a lot of it, whether it's pharmaceutical or other things in chemical processes, they work quicker and more efficiently in outer space. So we're going to see, space, life science buildings that are coordinated with here on Earth. And the other one we're having is on these private space launches, you now can lease a tile on these private satellites. And so we're starting to write the leases and the transactions that instead of you having to go to Amazon Web Services and have them manage your cloud, you can have your own tile in outer space at some rent. So how is that lease going to work? How is the space real estate, which are tiles on satellites, going to work? And whose law is going to govern? So if you launch the satellite from Florida, is it Florida's law that governs? Or if you launch it from Texas? And God forbid, you'll never launch from California because you'll never get through litigation.
Oh, you're tremendous. So, there's going to be so many things from security to technology. It's just another part of technology, and that that technology is why California is relocating to Orlando. I was thinking, my God, it must be the entertainment industry, but it just hit me like a brick. You saw me go. That's really the space technology people that are going to Orlando. Orlando's right across the beeline. It's if you go into East Orlando, Lake Nona, what is it, 45 minutes to get to the Space Coast?
Yeah. Well, remember when the space shuttle program wound down and we didn't know what was going to happen to Melbourne and the Space Coast, and Orlando was hiring a lot of those people for simulation engineering, all the games and the theme parks. And so now we've taken that simulation engineering to really the private space launch, spacenomics industry. So Florida is the epicenter. They're leading on every technology. The Space Foundation is incredible. So I think Florida will be the leading state on spacenomics here, and we will have that paper out probably by summer. And if they're not number one, they'll definitely be number two. And I don't know if California will even make the top 5 anymore.
So you trademarked that term. Is it okay if we use it? Can you send me like a little email with your little trademark thing so that I can use it when we
got the copyright
talk about that? And oh, you're so tremendous. I love the fact you're such a great thought leader too.
People tell me as a Red Shoe economist, I'm either crazy, and I tell them, yeah, but I'm crazy, right? Or they tell me that's just an out of the world concept. And so I had to take on Spaceonomics to prove that, yeah, I am out of this world.
You are out of this world. You're such a wonderful friend. So let's talk a little bit. We've got Adam here from, come on in the thing. Give me your thing again. It's okay.
You need to make him take the necktie.
Throw it up again, but I can't see you. You get in there for a second.
There we go. Come on.
Get that in there. Yeah.
If I can go necktieless, he can go necktieless. What are you doing?
He's tremendous. Take your tie off. Take your tie off. You don't have to be all stuffy for us. So, we've got Adam here. Adam's looking at a career in real estate. I've been introducing him around like I do for all the young people that I mentor. Casey, what would you tell Adam and the young people that are studying real estate at the U and at the University of Florida, and I guess we can even mention Florida State?
So 2 things I tell all of them is that when you're young in your career right now, you don't understand this term called opportunity cost. When you get married and have a mortgage, you just don't have that freedom. You don't have that opportunity. So while you're young right now, get the foundation elements that will make you a rock star in the real estate organization or your company. And those 2 elements are valuation and property management. So my dad encouraged me to come into valuation to learn how to manipulate value so I could con the banker and get the best price by knowing how to tweak the value or the cash flow. So spend about 2 years, gets really all the valuation concepts. And then number 2 on the property management, the entity that's going to be the MVP right now with expenses growing faster than rents is where do I get the efficiencies? How can I make things work better in my property? So if you understand the property management and the valuation, you can do anything in anywhere you want to do in this industry. Go into development because you know those 2 foundations. So go ahead and suffer it through. It sucks. They're not going to pay you a lot, but get 2 years of valuation, get 2 years of property management, and then you can write your ticket anywhere you want.
How did you know that my internship was with J&B Property Management Company, and then my first 2 years was with Laventhal and Horwath doing feasibility and valuation? I mean, that's why we don't have these green room free talks so people can get my real reaction. KC, I absolutely love you. I got goosebumps because that was my whole foundation. And now when I go into the real estate meetings and talk to the practitioners or the investors, I go, I didn't get my start selling used cars. I went to UF, got a real estate degree, got my MBA from UF, worked for a summer at J&B Property Management Company where I did a client satisfaction survey analog. We mailed it out and waited for the envelopes to come back. And then I worked for Laventhal doing feasibility studies for hotels. We took Orlando from 20 to 40,000 hotels. Then the SNL crash came. And I also did condo feasibility studies and allocation of land use for the Gateway Center over there in St. Pete. It was really a great basis for my career. And I've done this in Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, the Tri-County area. I did the funding analysis and placement for Sarasota City Center, Naples Beach Hotel and Club. I've worked all across the state. And what I've noticed is that there's a different type of person in each part of the state. Each part of our state is like its own little economy, its own little social system, its own little network. I talked about that actually just yesterday at the Millennium Conference when people were asking me what the different opportunities were in the state of Florida. And I said, I have a different tie for each city.
That's great. Yeah,
So
I
we're
had
going to take a break right here. Oh, go ahead, bud.
Neckties made into face masks, so now I put them to adaptive reuse.
I still have the face mask because of my lovely wife Vivian, and we still have to protect her and her kidney transplant. Mr. Mendoza, let's take a quick break right here. We'll talk about our great sponsors at Warren Henry. Then we'll come back and we'll talk about we'll talk about infrastructure. Since we're talking cars and automobiles and spaceships, Casey is probably the national expert on infrastructure. He sits on the board of one of these big REITs, and he consults with the Fed and all the big thought makers. I won't mention any of the people that you consult with unless you want to do that. That's up to you. So, Mr. Mendoza, you've been queued up. Let's rock the house. It's your turn, Regan. All right, we've got Casey Conway coming up next. We're going to be talking about infrastructure. My favorite infrastructure that I use every day is my wonderful car that I've gotten from Warren Henry Automotive. They're thought leaders. They are tremendous. They're leaders in every category in both sales, service, and customer satisfaction. And you know what that means. I want to thank Larry, Eric, Warren, Maytel Stark. I'll be seeing her this week when I take my wife's car in for service. They got us this brand new QX60. It was probably the first one off the boat. They treat us like gold, and we love them. High five to Ismet, who helps me buy my cars. So when you're looking to buy or lease your car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why I have to check out Warren Henry. Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, Jaguar, and now Lincoln up at 151st and Biscayne. Oh my gosh, I got to get my Lincoln hat for next time I do this bit. Up in Gainesville, sorry kid. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audis. He's a UM guy. Well, I'll get you UM. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audis. Down in the Keys, they sell them all. And for the UM guys, they just opened a dealership down in South Dade, so they don't have to travel so far. What do all the cars they sell have in common? Well, they're all great cars, and they all come with the Warren Henry Advantage. What is the Warren Henry Advantage, besides the fact that they love you and treat you like gold? It's the fact that you get this Warren Henry Advantage. It's a long list of services. I'll go through just a couple. When I take my car in for service on Saturday, Maytel will give me a loaner so I can go visit my mom and then come back. They'll give me the car. I'll go visit mom for a couple of hours, help her do what I do. She'll cook me some great food. I love my mom. She's so tremendous. They'll give you that free loaner. You got to make a reservation, but they've got them. Then, I'm really absent-minded. I lost my keys I don't know how many times. Those keys cost a lot of money. They're the reason there was the slowdown. They need the computer chips for the keys. They cost like a couple $100, some of them, even more sometimes. They give you the free key replacement. I like to parallel park real close because I don't like people to hit my door and give it a dent. I found a dent yesterday. It got me so angry. But when I do that, sometimes I park too close and I scrape my rims. Well, what happens when they scrape the rims? Warren Henry will polish them up for you. When you buy or lease your car, they'll guarantee you that you're getting the best value on your trade-in. They will guarantee that you're getting the best price on the sale or lease. They will give you 72 hours to trade it back to them. Nobody ever does that because they're all great cars. So you should join me, my beautiful wife, Vivian. I worship that woman. My mom, whoa, she's tremendous too. Lots and lots of my friends, a lot of my clients. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry. Hi, I'm Jim Freed. I surround myself with thought leaders like Casey Conway and young people like Adam over here, even though he's a hurricane. What are you going to do? Why do I do that? Because I always like to have cutting edge knowledge. Casey and I talk about what he thinks about the new technologies that are coming in the alternate ways for us to finance real estate. We'll talk about that later in the show. We'll also probably give a shout out and a message to the young people again. Maybe I'll interview Adam if he's a good kid. But what does that do? It keeps me fresh. And I'm able to bring that fresh, new perspective, my global perspective, to my clients. I have clients from all over the world: New Zealand, Brazil, Australia. We do business with people that do business in India, all over the world. I bring all these new ideas and help people address the dynamic and change that's happening in the marketplace. There's lots of ways to take advantage of what's going on. not just in Florida, but across the country. I met these great investors last night. We talked about how to streamline their business, reduce costs, and help them reach even more investors. Casey and I will discuss that later in the show. There's always new ways to do things, but they're also always based on the old ways. That's why I have the gray hair. So call me, DM me. Remember, my personal brand is that I self-actualize by helping other people achieve their dreams and goals. I do that by solving their problems and bringing them peace of mind. And remember, whenever you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
There it is. But come on, you're always late on the game. Where is he? Oh, I love you so much. You're such a goofball. You're such a goofball. You're tremendous. You're absolutely freaking tremendous. So let's talk about infrastructure. Oh, for a second, I thought you actually had hair again.
Tell Adam this is what will happen after 30 years in the business.
Yeah, Adam looks good. I'm going to show him a picture of me when I was his age. I look exactly the same. Didn't have that fake, that little beard that they wear now. I call it the half beard that makes him look all funny. You know, you'll look like this when you're our age. So anyway, KC, let's talk about infrastructure. Let's talk about logistics. When people ask me why Florida, I draw that flat hemispheric map of the world. I say, what's in the middle? And then they get it completely. Florida's in the middle. Florida's at the crossroads. The great cities at their different times have always been the transportation hubs. London, Hong Kong, all that different stuff. Florida is now the London and Hong Kong of the future. Tell me what's going on with the ports, the traffic, and the infrastructure, and why Florida is such a great place.
Yeah, it's an amazing story that's changed since we probably last chatted. So the first thing that changed is LA Long Beach is no longer the busiest container port in North America. It went to the East Coast. New York overtook LA Long Beach at the end of last year. And then Georgia, Port of Savannah, they got all the approvals to go to 9 million containers. So they will displace New York and LA Long Beach.
You're talking Georgia, so I had to bring that up.
There you go. Our mutual friend Todd Jones doesn't like it when I talk about Georgia, so I'm using his real advice cup for my drinking today. But anyway,
high five to Todd. Todd's the guy who introduced us.
I'm getting all my props in, right?
You're tremendous. Well, that's what this is all about.
So the port story is impressive because what we're finding is you have more jobs than any other place in the country, including New York. You got to supply it, and so Florida has more ports than any other state. You have 13. So when you fracture, say, if Georgia had 13 ports, they wouldn't even have one port that had 300,000 containers. But you have one, you can have, 6 million containers. So Florida is massive on that. And the three big stories are, I would say, pay attention to Port Everglades. The Homeland Security does not want containers going into Miami and getting mixed up on cruise ships and having a dirty bomb. So they want to keep them segregated. So they're really supporting Port Everglades growth and what they're doing on the container traffic. The second thing is pay attention to Winter Haven in Central Florida. So that is the new inland empire. Yeah, it's the new inland empire of California without all of the union labor problems. And so Scott Malott, who's the director of the economic development for Central Florida, I mean, they brought Nucor in. They've helped strawberries go away and become warehouses and e-commerce and Toyota and Publix and Home Depot, everything from Plant City all the way to Lakeland. It is an impressive story. And what connects all that is where its location is. It can draw from Jacksonville. It can draw from Tampa. It can draw up from Miami. So the big story that's coming to pay attention to is the rail mergers. So last year, we just about got completed the merger between Canadian Pacific and Kansas City Southern that created the first Class 1 railroad that goes right through the middle of my Golden Triangle, the Great Lakes down to Texas and all of Florida in the Southeast.
Is that something else you trademarked?
I did. Yep.
I know all the softball questions to ask.
Yeah, I ate at McDonald's a lot, and I saw golden arches. And I thought, yeah, we're a golden triangle. Stole it from McDonald's idea. So anyway, what you have happening is in the rail mergers, the other Canadian railroad, Canadian National, cannot stand still without acquiring a major railroad in the U.S. So they were really looking at Norfolk Southern and CSX. And of course, with the Ohio incidents and the rail problems, probably Norfolk Southern you don't want to buy with all of the environmental liability. So you want CSX. And my forecast is that within the next year, you'll probably see Canadian National make a run at CSX. And guess what they're going to do? They're either going to drain Lake Okeechobee and get rid of all of those tide, algae blooms or whatever, but they're going to figure out how to connect South Lake Okeechobee to North Okeechobee with rail and just explode the logistics in Florida. They will build the rail because right now you got to do a truck movement to go from south of Lake Okeechobee to the other side. On that, John Dahm is a good friend of both of ours. Is just like the Florida resource on ports. Studies that a lot, but we need DeSantis before he becomes president, and runs and all, and then finally erases the name Trump for us or whatever. Unless you're over in West Palm
We don't
Beach.
really do presidential politics here, but I think that people feel the momentum of what's occurring here in the state of Florida.
Well, I'm not right
There
or
may
left.
even be a third. There may even be a third Florida candidate before we all get.
Yeah. What about your niece? She almost did it on governor. So
No. We definitely don't talk politics here. I was kind of alluding to Francis Suarez, who just blew me away yesterday.
Yeah, no, it's I'm just a capitalist. I want capitalism to be a respectable term and ideology in America again, and so I don't care whether you're right or left. If you're a capitalist, I love you.
I think all the capitalists are really blue because we have to appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
Notice how I mean purple. Sorry, purple. Because we have to appeal to everybody. I really don't have any real blue or red. I really think that we all need to get along, compromise, and do things. And by the way, Francis was the chairman of the League of Mayors or whatever, and he helped them get that infrastructure bill by creating a bipartisan solution. You see, to me, the word will be bipartisan going forward, I hope.
Yeah. Well, compromise is a bad word, so nobody wants to compromise anymore. So I don't know how we get it, but we'll go on. But this is the logistics story in Florida is phenomenal. Port Everglades, I think, is the up and comer to really watch how it gets connected by rail up into Central Florida, the Inland Empire there, and then you layer in the space economy. Just think of this. Think of what you have to supply in the logistics for 90 space launches, private space launches a year. It's more than all the states combined. That's an amazing story by itself. So Florida is getting it. They do it. They're an important part of that logistics story. So I'm all favorable to it. It all comes down to us in the South. Flex it, baby. Florida and Texas exit.
Hey, now we're not talking about seceding from the union again. That was last year. That was your big thing last year. Florida and Texas becoming their own country. And if they did that, what would their combined GDP be? Like number 7 or 8 in the whole world? Try
5 or 6.
I was close.
Just Florida and Texas. Isn't that amazing? And you just
we'll take Georgia with us, and then we'll have number 4, number 3.
Yeah. Just take if you just took the SEC, it'd be like the 3rd or 4th economy in the world.
Oh, well, it already is if you're talking about sports, but we're not talking about sports. So let's look at another thing that I really had that I wanted to talk about today. And we've got Adam here. Adam, you can come in again. It's okay. There he is. Yeah, come on, scoot over. Get in the picture a little bit. Come on, keep going. There he is. So, yeah, I know. I can't do that. I don't have any. That is very cool. That is very cool. But you need to get some of that gel in there too. So let's talk to Adam a little bit, and I want to look out into the future. It's 5 years from now in the United States, and then 10 years from now in the United States. I don't think we can really see much further than that. What do you see going on with the economy 5 years out and then 10 years out?
Well,
KC. We'll talk to you in a minute.
All right.
So I think if people want to really go back in history and look at an analogy, look at the oil patch. So when we had the oil patch in the 80s and oil prices collapsed after the big boom in the early 80s, we had a bifurcation of the economy. And you had the oil economy states and the non-oil economy. I grew up in Colorado. It was really bad in Colorado, Oklahoma, Texas. I was living in Atlanta. I didn't know what the heck you people were talking about on a recession with this oil patch thing. And I think what we're seeing here is in the divide of the country, whether you look at the U-Haul moving report, you look at Florida, #1 state for jobs ever. They have more jobs than New York. These are fundamental, huge watershed shifts. And so I think we're going to see this bifurcation between really the South and the economies that figured out how to be fiscally balanced, that figured out how to maintain and sustain affordability, to attract business in here because of basic just common sense capitalism practices or whatever. That what we're going to see is it's going to be about seven or eight states in the South go Texas and you can arc over and pick up, Tennessee, Georgia, the Carolinas, and all of Florida. And this will be half or more of our GDP. It already is. If you look at my golden triangle, which if you top the top half off, it's over half our GDP. And so you just look at all the elements, just pick an area, an industry, space, auto, entertainment, leisure, housing, real estate, office, gym businesses from California. There's not a category that Florida is not 1, 2, or 3 on.
So there is something that is a trend that I wanted to go back to now, and that's how we're going to house all these people. With the increasing interest rates, it makes it very difficult to build multifamily housing, condo, build to rent, all the places that people want to live. It's difficult to produce that, and it's a big driver for economic growth. What do you see with the disconnect in pricing, valuation, and the ability to capitalize the housing creation here in Florida and the rest of the country? How are we going to solve that?
So it's probably our number one. If you look at social or other problem, is affordable housing. And you look in California, I was just out there in Long Beach and I left the LA airport, which I don't think I've done in 20 years. I just fly in and out of that place and I never go outside. And the homeless encampments and tents all the way down to Long Beach, it was so depressing. And these are people that these are engineers. These are people that are making $100,000+ a year, but the, a 2-bedroom apartment rents at like $10,000 a month out there. Nobody can afford it. You can't even afford to buy a house or get a mortgage. So we've got to solve it. And there's really only 2 ways to do it. Number one is we've got to deal with density. And nobody wants more density because, oh my God, it's going to ruin everything I got here, keep everybody else out. It's going to bring in the criminal element. If, they just don't want it. Oh, we have all these mayor NIMBYs, but we've got to basically do a higher utilization of our land and do it internal. So we're not driving everywhere, that we can use public transportation. We get on a bike on the underline and go from one part of South Florida to the other without getting in a car. We can do all of those things. So it's our number one problem. So I'm on a director on a REIT, public REIT that does all affordable housing. We do manufactured housing. It's known as UMH, and they're passionate. It's a 50-plus-year-old REIT, and we build manufactured home communities. And as you guys know, in Florida, you have more 4- and 5-star, really nice stuff. Go up to Sarasota, go to places like that and look at the type manufactured home communities that have walled areas. They have, porches on the front, carports, they have sidewalks, lighting, they have HOA covenants. So if you get 2 911 calls, you get evicted unless it's for a heart attack. If you survive 2 heart attacks on 911, you get a stay. But if it's for other stuff, you get kicked out. But these are wonderful communities. And here's the numbers that people don't realize. So when you're in a manufactured home community, our REIT, we're looking at about $30,000 to $50,000 for the all-in site development costs of a pad. And you're looking at about $80,000 to $110,000 for the manufactured home. These are modern, open floor plan, up to 1,400 square feet properties. So you're all in at, $150,000 to $180,000. And our REIT got Fannie Mae to do the first ever manufactured home mortgage. Imagine that. It's taken us this long. And we just built our first community in Florida in Sebring. And so Ian welcomed us and went right over the brand new community. And the only damage we had was a few palm trees that fell down, but not one roof, not one bit of structural damage to any one of the manufactured homes. We put in community amenities like a community center, a daycare, place for daycare. We put in splash pads. We put in a Dollar General store and an out pad, so you don't have to go 10 miles to the grocery store and you can get your perishables. This is the only under $250,000 housing available in America today. If you go back to the textile days, the textile companies made textile towns so that people could live there near the textile plant and do their work. And then now they became regentrified, and these mill towns in the Carolinas and North Carolina became really hip places. But we are going to have to figure out how to provide density and affordability of housing near where we put our industry that's coming there to Florida. And it's density, and it's things like manufactured housing. It's not a bad word. They don't attract tornadoes or crime. We've done all the studies. We have some of the lowest crime rates in any of our manufactured home communities, 130 of them, because we put a police precinct in, because we have HOA covenants, because we think it all the way through. We can even make it green. We can put it in our own wastewater treatment facility, so we don't have to put a burden on the municipal system that's maybe already strained. But we're going to have to think about these options. And here's the statistics. A good housing economist friend of mine out of California is John Burns. And John Burns recently published a report that showed that there are 0 under 250,000 homes being built in America today. And if you go back 10 years ago, that was 20% of the new housing market. So we have none. And when I travel, I talk to the hospitality workers, the restaurant workers, the first responders that are around, the police and security. And I say, what's your housing situation like? Where do you work? It is awful. They're commuting long distances, or they're doubled up with other family. If we don't fix it, we're going to see more of this economic political divide between haves and have-nots. And we can solve this. And it really is about density and then figuring out, what does density mean? How do you plan for it? How can you do it in a way that you can do things like use the underline, or use your new high-speed light rail going from Miami to Orlando, so you don't have to get in a car, that makes all the office buildings along that rail line worth twice as much as what they used to be, that they're leasing like mad. We can make all this work without creating infrastructure strain, but we just can't get these Mayor NIMBYs out of office. We need more YIMBYs. Yes, in my backyard.
Well, the reality is that you're going to have a public-private solution. Here in Miami, it's much quicker to get your deal done in the county than it is in the city. A lot of these metro stations are county-owned land. They can upzone them. The issue with you upzoning it is that you have a higher cost of construction. I think that you're going to see things like the ESG funds come in, and other public funds, and give tax credits so that they can bring down the cost. I think that a public-private solution is what you're really looking at. In Sebring, I'm working on a build-to-rent project right now. When I showed it to the investors, they said Sebring, and they weren't too thrilled. Then they looked at the statistic and said, bring it on. We want to be in Sebring. And they're going to do it with modular housing. They're going to bring the plant in. They're going to build a plant there. They're going to create jobs. We'll get them tax credits to create the jobs, and then the people will be able to live there. We're going to talk to Casey in the last part of the segment. In the last part of the show, we're going to talk about prop tech, how he thinks prop tech is going to change the world. And maybe if Adam's lucky, we'll give him a chance to talk about how he sees the future. Mr. Mendoza, all I want to see is the break. All right, everybody. I want to thank our friends. We just talked about infrastructure. My favorite infrastructure implementation is my car from Warren Henry. Casey doesn't like the fact that it's a car. He wants me to ride the train, but I live too far away. So we're going to have to get the lateral transportation from the stations in better organized fashion. But I can tell you this, when you are looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry. They've got all kinds of great cars of the future. They're going to be tremendous. They're evolving, and I can't wait. My wife just got the brand new QX60. It should be the car of the year. Every time we sit in that, I absolutely love it. Let's see, Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, and Jaguar. Now Lincoln up at 151st and Biscayne. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audis. Down in the Keys, they got them all. And now in South Dade, they've got a new store there too. They're covering the market for even people like Adam in South Dade. Now, what do all these cars have in common? Well, they're all great cars, and they all come with the Warren Henry Advantage. A long list of services that you get that includes free loaner car. Well, like I'm going to take my car in for service. Maytel, give me that free loaner so I can visit my mom, do a little shopping, and then come back. Let's see what else. If you park your car, scrape your rims, they'll polish up your rims for you for free. They'll give you a free key if you key replacement. If you lose your key, those are expensive computer generated chips and stuff like that. They'll guarantee that you're getting the best value on your trade-in, the best price on your lease or on your new car. They will give you 72 hours to exchange your car if you want. Nobody ever does that. They love their cars. So join me, my beautiful wife, Vivian, my mom. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. Lots of my clients and friends are too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry. Hey, everybody, reach out to me. You can see I'm invested in the community. I mentor all these young people. In fact, one of my mentees owns his own industrial park up by Melbourne and is going to capitalize on all the space technology Casey was talking about. Another person I mentored is now one of the lead lenders at one of the super regional banks. Another one works in New York City doing appraisals for one of the big appraisal companies. His specialty is self-storage. We've got them all over the country, New York, LA, California, Chicago. We're going to help Adam over here get his dream job, or at least kick off his career. We'll talk to him in a couple of seconds about why he wants to be in the real estate world. But what does that mean? That means I have a heart, that I'm invested in the community, and that I have the best interest of the people that I work with at heart. People from all over the world call me. I do business all over the world. I'm a leading technology adopter. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. So real estate operating companies, property management companies, family offices, real estate funds, I work with them all. The big institutions also, I advise them. I tell them, that's why it's Sandstone Realty Advisors. I advise them. I tell them what they're going to do. I'm going to work with one of the biggest developers. Starting next week, we're going to be consulting with them on what to do with their changing portfolio. So reach out to me, DM me. My personal brand is that I self-actualize by helping other people achieve their dreams and goals. I do that by helping them solve their problems and giving them peace of mind. And remember, whenever you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
So we're back. We're here with my good friend Adam. You can do it now. You can do it now. Yeah. Thank God only half of it showed. Oh, Casey's getting ready for St. Paddy's Day. You're such a joker. Casey Conway, my friend, he's an economist on, we just talked about the public REIT. He talks to the Fed all the time. He and I just got back from the University of Florida Center for Real Estate Studies. I'll do this now. Trends conference where he was one of the keynote speakers. Enough. Only one throwing up the U per segment. We also have friends who went to Florida State. We appreciate everybody. We'll talk in a second why it's good for a young person to get a real estate degree here. Casey, I want to talk a little bit about property technology. I'm a leader in property technology. I'm working with some of the biggest innovators in the world. I just got back from the Invenium conference where we talked about data, big data, and its impact on the real estate economy. I'm teaching fund managers and real estate investors, real estate operating companies, and even CPA firms and other consulting firms and lawyers, all about smart contracts, real estate digitization, and the efficiencies that can be had by increasing your technology. We've talked about the cost factor and how things are changing. Casey, what's your thoughts on property technology?
Yeah, so it's great how diverse you are. So, the message for Adam here is, Adam, you got to wear the many hats of real estate. So, I'm putting all the hats on for you. So this is my dad's every St. Patrick's Day, he'd get his outfit and wear his hat and be the director of the parade in his convertible car and my green Mustang. So got to wear many hats and build your brand. So people will remember this show, Jim. Oh my God, that crazy economist between shoes and hats. We don't know what to do, but prop tech is just one more of those areas. And so here's going back, Adam, when I said do a tour of duty in property management, because this is where you figure out all this prop tech. And everything we're doing today is how do I get efficiencies in the operations of my real estate assets, whether it's to do a refinancing, to do an acquisition, to do releasing or repositioning that asset. The more you can leverage technology, the better you're going to have in both the outreach to prospective tenants, to investors, to who's going to buy these assets in the digital ledger where everything's there rather than manual. But it's expensive. And the other piece that we've got to pay attention to is the security issues, because we can put all of this technology about our property up in these really cool applications and whatnot to do things. But if we don't know if they're secure and how the digital ledger works, we could basically have another broker come in and steal all your tenants and all your information, or mess things up, or hold you hostage for. Oh yeah, they can't hold you hostage for FTX currency anymore, can they? That's all gone. But they'll pick Bitcoin, right?
So one of the things I'm working on is secure tokens, security tokens. They're SEC approved. All the people that understand the technology from all of the digital currency issues that weren't regulated are still early adopters. And now we're going to be investors using that technology. And I'm bringing a secure data, a secure security, SEC compliant way to do all that. And I believe that that's the next phase for the early adopters and for the future mom and pop investors in real estate. Adam, come on in here for a second. There you go. So Adam, why are you getting involved in real estate? What is it that appeals to you in the career of real estate? Come swing up here and come on in.
Sure. Well, yeah, thank you guys. So I believe that real estate is a great industry to be in because, as you mentioned, it's trying to diversify what I'm learning. So now I'm doing a bunch of internships where I'm learning about deal flow or cash flow or building deals or valuation, like you said. And it's great to learn about the different facets of the industry and meeting people like Jim who are amazing and helping a lot with it. But I think there are two parts of it. There's the why real estate. I personally like it because everyone needs a place to live. Everyone needs a place to work, and it's such a tangible asset that you're working with that I feel like it's always going to be in demand. And then you have the second part of it, which is why Florida. And you guys were talking about this the entire episode. But coming from the Northeast, especially when I graduated high school during COVID, you would see the town I'm living because it's so close to New York City. You'd see the migration from New York City during COVID, during the pandemic, where they'd all move down here because no one wants to work in the city during COVID. And when that ended, you're seeing all these huge firms come down to Florida. And now you see huge companies like JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs building offices. Citadel and Boca Raton. And they're seeing all the migration over here because of what you guys were saying with that golden triangle. Everyone is moving down here. And so I believe it's the perfect place to get into the industry with the growth that we're going to start seeing in Florida.
Well played. Look at him. Sounds just like me in 1984. So KC, oh, by the way, high five.
Thank you. I had to think about it.
You were tremendous. You were tremendous. It's all about being transparent and authentic. You're both. So that's why we're here, because we're also transparent and authentic. We've only got about 5 or 6 minutes left, Casey. I'd really like to delve into what you see in the future as far as the study of real estate and what you can predict for the next 6 to 12 months.
So I think we're facing a very difficult 2023. Anybody wants to sugarcoat it, they're wrong, or they should go to another great Florida property, the Breakers in Palm Beach. So close I get to Florida Blue for you. I'll be down there in a week for St. Patrick's Day, but we were taught early in our career, Adam, Jim and I, that all we needed to know about real estate was location, location, location. And what I've learned over my career, it's LTC, location, timing, and capital. And you can have the best location, but if the timing's bad, like right now, with the Fed not being able to figure out or communicate a message of what it's going to do, or they're locking capital up, our industry is one that is incredibly capital intensive. So in addition to the appraisal and the property management, get those foundations down, figure out how to get into the capital formation side, this real estate finance like the Jim does. The person that can unlock and figure out how to deliver capital to our industry and to our assets, they win. Transactions happen. Value creation is enhanced. But it's not LLL, it's LTC, location, timing, capital. Get the appraisal, get the property management, then you'll be very effective on the capital side. I think that what we're going to see the Fed do here, they're going to go 50 basis points next week, and they may even have to go 75 after that. And remember this Fed that we had go back 1.5 years, 2 years ago, it was a Fed that said, no inflation? Okay, maybe it's transitory. Okay, maybe it's transitory a little bit longer. Could you please forget we ever told you transitory? To then January 1 year ago when they said, oh my God, right? There is inflation, but we're too chicken to do a damn thing. So January of 1 year ago, they didn't make a move. They take February off for Groundhog Day, hoping the groundhog would not see the inflation shadow, but it saw a redwood shadow on inflation. So they come back in March and they say, okay, we'll do a 1/4 point because we don't want to scare the bond market too much. And then we'll take April off for spring break. And they come back in May and they're like, oh my God, we got to start doing real adjustments. And they start thinking that their only tool is raising rates 50 basis points by 475 basis points after that. And they've done nothing on inflation. The only thing that inflation slowed down for in the second half of last year was because we decided to deplete our strategic petroleum reserves in oil and bring the price of gasoline down $1 a gallon. That's over. Now we have no oil for a crisis in strategic petroleum reserves, and we have energy prices going back up. This is the most incompetent Fed that we've had since World War II. Absolutely terrible. The one person I would tell you to study that's got it exactly right, she was on CNBC yesterday, she's on about every other month, is Judy Shelton. She was nominated to be a governor or vice chair of the board, and they said, well, she's too honest and too straightforward, and that makes too much sense. We can't have her on the Fed. But she is phenomenal. Judy Shelton, spot on. Go look her up in her videos or whatnot. But I see the Jim, we have a real capital lockup, and it's only going to get worse over the 6 months until we see this summer what's the Fed really going to do and what's happening in inflation. My fear is energy inflation comes back in, food's over 10%, shelter's over 10%, wages are over 10%. All the things that are really going to drive inflation, I call them the super core. So it's shelter, it's food, it's it's energy, and it's services. You look at the service wage employment. If you can do anything, you look at these people being laid off in the tech workforce. They got 5 jobs lined up elsewhere. They can tell Amazon go pound sand. These technology companies that are laying off their coding people and their engineers is the absolute worst thing they should be doing. That's their R&D department going forward. So I see a tough 6 months ahead. If the Fed doesn't get it right and quit honking their horn, then we're in real trouble.
The guys, it's all about transportation. The guy's really just aggravated about the transportation crunch. He wants to make a left-hand turn and doesn't realize that the guy in front is trying to let the pedestrian go. So listen, that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm bringing in alternative sources of capital. I'm doing that by using the blockchain technology, the security tokens. These are tokens that are really secured by assets. They're real values. The values are updated instantaneously on a consistent basis, so they reflect what's really going on. And we're getting capital flow in there. I signed up my first fund. It's a $75 million land fund. We're going to fund the creation of lots that the public companies will then be able to buy when all this dam breaks in about 12 to 24 months. The company I'm working with is based in New Zealand. We raise money all over the world for this, and we're going to be doing it with the new technology that I'm bringing to all of these different real estate operating companies, real estate fund managers. I'll be speaking at the Opal conference about alternative real estate investing at the end of the month to all of the family offices. It's going to be really exciting. So wrapping up, I want to really thank our special guest, Adam. You can do it again.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you guys for having me.
It's our pleasure. I want to thank KC, who's the hairiest economist I've ever seen. The guy still can't make the turn. Can you believe that? I love people that are patient. This guy's probably, there's only 2 types of drivers. I'll give George Carlin the credit. There's only 2 types of drivers: the guy who's lost that's in front of you and the guy who's late that's behind you. That's it.
I love it.
You're the best. Hey, Casey, I want to thank you so much. Casey, where can people read up on you, hook up with you, find your information, stuff like that?
Yeah, so if they just go to our website, www.redshoeeconomics, and there are 2 E's at the end of E and the beginning of economics, redshoeeconomics.com. If you go to the media tab, all my presentations, all my research, it's free for download. You can see where I'm going, see what I'm doing next. We love you, Jim. Anything we can do. It was great seeing you in person. It's been too long at the University of Florida. And, Adam, I'll give you another tip: adaptive reuse. We are going to have to repurpose malls, big box, convenience stores and gas stations. With all these EV cars, we have almost 250,000 gas stations that are going to close in the next 3 years. What are we going to do with them? They have convenience stores. So, Jim, I'll tell you what your great sponsor needs to do on the new car line that they need to have from Lexus or Tesla. So I've told our good friend Todd, the new model that's going to come out, the new EV, is going to have a special feature in the trunk. And you'll hit the switch in the trunk, and what will pop out will be a porta potty. And you'll be able to discharge while you recharge because you're not going to stop at a convenience store.
That's tremendous. I want to thank you so much, Casey. Casey Conway, my favorite economist, one of my best friends. It was great to finally see you in person and hug after COVID. It was wonderful. I really appreciate you as a friend and as a mentor and as a guide and as an advisor. You're tremendous. I want to thank our special guest, Adam, back there. You can do it one more time, Adam.
All right.
There you go. I'll do this. Casey's going to put another hat on.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
There it is. Enjoy yourself, Casey. Mr. Mendoza, the rest of the... Oh, I almost forgot this part. Adam, you better remember this. Casey is the example of this. I want to thank all our sponsors. I want to thank the folks at Warren Henry. I want to thank the University of Florida Center for Real Estate Studies, the Bergstrom Center. I want to thank everybody for watching and listening. We have a live presentation every Wednesday at noon, and then you can watch all of it on freedombusiness.com. And remember, the person that wants to do something finds a way. The other finds an excuse. Now go out there and make it happen. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.